So y'all need to check out From Old Country Bumpkin to Master Swordsman. I just watched episode 1 and I walked in excited. This was legitimately one of my more anticipated shows. And I knew it wasn't going to be most people's because it didn't look like it was going to be the flashiest show at face value. But honestly, the animation for the fights was surprisingly more flashy than I was expecting. And the opening song does get me pretty damn excited to see where they pull this off. But we don't get a lot of shows with pure adult MCs, and I mean that. Like, we've gotten more recently. You have stuff like the Ocean Newbie Adventurer, I Parry Everything, and you have more adult-oriented MCs. But this one made me more excited because at face value, it kind of gave me the vibe that we might have like a overcoming a midlife crisis style MC, and honestly, I kind of feel that it delivered on that kind of way. You have someone, like, they're going with that trope of older man doesn't realize he's more gifted than he actually is. Whether that's because, characters talk down on him or this, that, and the third. It seems like the reason they're going this route with this show is that he's basically been a swordsman trainer for all his life, since like his 20s. He's now like 45 or something like that, according to the wiki. And we have at least a 20-year gap in terms of one of his previous students or the person that he saved. So we know he's been there for a hot minute. So he thinks he's just some old guy who teaches people how to swing a sword. And he thinks like, yeah, I know the basics, but I'm just some old guy. And then watching his dad throw him out, and we think it's under the whole reason that he just wants grandkids, so don't come back till you have a wife. But then we see that no, like, he knows his son's destined for better things. Like, there's not a more talented swordsman that they've met, and they want to see where he goes. So it is going to be a slow burn, and it's clear that he's going to do more than just training students, because he's already done that, and I don't think it would obviously make for the most exciting anime. And it does seem like based on the ending song, there will be more adventuring. That has me really excited because you're dealing with just pure adult characters. Yeah, there's age gaps between the girls and him. Like, I did take a look because I was curious. Like, all the girls seem to be in their late 20s-ish, and he's obviously 45. But at least everyone's adults, right? And I'm really excited to see because the vibe of his character you don't see often. He's not super like, oh my god, I'm so pathetic. He legitimately just doesn't get that. Like, hey, yeah, you're older than most people, but you still clearly are in your prime. Like, you just kicked some dude's ass was supposed to be the hotshot of the group, and they want you to teach them more on top of, yeah, the flirtatious romance brewing, but to be honest, I don't know who. This guy is probably the hardest to pick of who he would land as a wife, and it probably will be none of his former students. He'll just pick the busty MILF that he'll end up meeting someday, and either way, I'm just excited for this one. Of course, if you want to support my work, see my full thoughts on these episodes, we're going to have them over on Patreon exclusively, if you want to see my full thoughts, that is. I like it. We don't see these shows a lot, and while they are getting more common, it's not like your average isekai where you know you're going to have 5 of them a season. This is like maybe every other season, every 3 seasons, we get a more mature MC, and it's just a little more down to earth, or maybe they go more comedic with it to keep it more entertaining. But still, you don't see a lot of MCs like these, and so far they delivered. I think, despite all the characters having very difficult names to remember, they're not your run-of-the-mill anime names, that's for damn sure. Like, our MC's like Beryl, as an example. I love the fact that it looks so good, and I'm gonna say this, but hear me out the full thing. It looks so good in a boring way. There's nothing overly flashy about the show outside of actual animation. Like, the sword fighting, as an example, looked incredible, 3D included. But your actual, like, this doesn't seem like it's a world full of magic. I mean, it could, but so far, that hasn't been really shown. It seems to be more like grounded in reality. So because of that, the world is a grounded, fantasy-looking show. The buildings, the forestry, the character models, they're all sharp, highly detailed, but it's not overly flashy. Like, the most flashy thing you can say about the visuals is some of the more provocative images of the characters' wardrobes. Like, when you pan up from abs of steel to busty bazonkas, or his first student, how, like, barely anything is covering the front trouser area, if you catch my drift. Yeah, they know what they're doing. But in general, like, he's not overly flashy the way he's dressed, and I think, in general, like, they kept it grounded to reality for the most part, while still having a bit of flair to keep it a little spicy to sell them Blu-rays and figures, of course. Great to look at, and animation surprisingly great. I was expecting a lot stiffer of animation, but even when they went into 3D, the fact that, like, I could tell when things are 3D, like when a sword, like an up close sword shot as it was grazing across like the other sword, or when the character models became 3D to allow them to do whatever they were doing, like spinning around or talking, whatever. I just felt in general like the sword movements and sword strikes were a lot more grounded than I was expecting. But despite being so grounded and not using your typical, here's the flashy flare to make it look like explosive shit's happening, no, they just kept it highly precise, and I thought the action was very good. This isn't going to be something like a Yaiba Samurai Legend where you're going to be like, oh my god, like look at the flash, look at the flare. But I think it's also important, as much as we love those shows and as much as I just praise that show, it's also important to have shows like these that keep it more grounded, and I think it does a great job at what it's set out to do. I like the characters. I like all the characters. Honestly, I was surprised how much I liked his mom and pops. Hopefully we'll get to see more of them. And I thought it was just funny. Like, you have like these like 80-year-old parents who are like, when are we getting grandkids? And mom's like, don't worry, it'll happen when it happens. I know we'll see that. And I'm like, I hope when I get to this woman's age, I'm that confident that I'm gonna live so long. Because I gotta be honest, your son's like 45, still doesn't have kids. If he does end up having them, he might have them when he's like 60, and his swimmers are still doing okay. But I don't think you're going to be around to see them. But you know what? Bless her and her determination to believe. I really thought they were just going to keep it as they kicked him out because they wanted kids, and if he's in the capital surrounded by more people, there's a more high likelihood that he'll find a wife. But the fact that it's actually determined by the dad also supporting the fact that he's an insanely talented swordsman and no one's more talented, so he deserves to spread his wings, even if he doesn't realize he's capable. You know, it's always nice because often with these kind of adventure shows, the characters in questions are still quite young. They're like, you know, they're 16, they're 18, or the young 20s, right? They still have their whole life ahead of them anyway. But once you get into your 40s, like, you still have a lot of living left to do if you take care of your body and your mind and everything like that. But you don't see it often where these characters are truly living for the first time in their life, not because like they were tragically beaten or abused or had this horrible life prior, but they had a more boring, mundane life. To have a character like this who's gonna actually spread his wings and isn't a complete bumbling idiot anyway, like he's a little more awkward because he is used to the countryside, but he's gonna fit in despite having a few blunders along the way. I don't expect this show's gonna blow up. I don't expect this show's gonna get, I think, the attention I believe it deserves. But I'm here to say that these are the types of shows that I often look forward to the most in a season, and if you watched my What Will I Watch video that I aired a week ago or whatever, this was one of the shows that I said was one of my more anticipated, and I'm happy to say for myself it delivered. And while it's not the first time in recent memory we've gotten a more adult-oriented cast, we don't get them enough to say that it's a common enough occurrence, so I think it's worth pointing out that, yeah, finally, we got an adult anime, and even the more flirtatious cliche bits about the show doesn't come across as cringy as, you know, it does when you have your typical high school cast. Let me know your thoughts and feelings down below. What did you think of the first episode, and are you going to keep watching? Because I definitely am. Do let me know. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here, of course, ring that bell, and like I mentioned, full live reactions over on Patreon, and hey, while you're over there, I'll just give you a video shout out. Alright, so today we got Ekidana, Kunji, Crazy Cards, Do Stern, Da Pickle, Gulian, and Jesus Christ, we also have Coom Snatcher. Oh man, what a name. Thanks so much for the support. So until next time, everyone, please take care and you all have a good one.